Okay, time to learn the forecasting tool. So, in that same data file we've been using, make sure you click on the forecasting tab. Put your cursor again in this Excel table so that the Analyze tab pops up, and we now want to use the forecast tool. However, before we click on that, let's make sure you understand the data that we're working with here. It's in a different format than what we're used to. Our rows are represented by month-year pairs, and we have total, I imagine this is total revenue for the different regions. Again, divided up by year month. And now this is not a date format, it's more of an ID that represents a date month. 2001 July, 2001 August, and so forth, up to 2004-ish. So what we want to do, assuming we're in 2004, is now predict out the next, let's say, 8 months from here. So with our cursor in here, now click the forecast tool. And this one's a little bit trickier, although it's still not bad. We want to select the columns that we want to forecast. We don't want to forecast out year month. There's no question here about what the next months are going to be. We don't want those predicted or forecasted. What we want to do is forecast the sales for Europe, North America, and the Pacific. So next we just want to simply tell it how many units to forecast. So by units this means how many time periods. Well, our rows are representing the time periods, and each row represents another month, right? 2004, January, February, March, April, May, June. So when we say 5, we're saying forecast out through 2004, November of 2004. We can change this to whatever we feel like. I said 8 months, so we'll change it to 8. Next, we need to select the timestamp and the periodicity. So the timestamp is which column is representing the timestamp, obviously. So we're saying it's represented by this column, but then periodicity says, okay, for that timestamp, what's the actual period being represented? So the standard formulas that you'd probably learn in your finance class to predict and forecast are the same ones that are built into Excel here. The ARIMA, I think, and ARIBA, or something like that. Anyway, we simply need to tell, those formulas depend on knowing what the periodicity is. It can try to detect automatically, but it'd be better not to ever do that. If you know what the periodicity is, go ahead and plug it in. In this case, each row represents a month, therefore it's monthly. So we're going to set both of those, hit run. Let us send it over to SQL Server Analysis Services. It comes back. Now it does a couple things. It created this new tab, but first let's go back to the forecasting tab. Notice that it's added 8 more rows to represent its predictions over the next 8 months. Every time you run this, it's going to predict further out from these predictions. So it's going to use these as though they're true, as though it's gospel next time you run this. So if you want to run it multiple times, you probably want to come back here and delete out these rows before you rerun it, so you don't mess up your data. Alright, now come to this forecasting report that was created. Here's the chart. The data, the lines up to that are solid up to where the dotted lines begin, these are the actual amounts, and then from here on out the dotted lines represent the forecasted amounts. So Europe, North America, notice it follows a similar path. Pacific, notice it just stays down here. There's these big dips here create some issues that it doesn't, it's having trouble predicting. So let's take a look at this in more detail and extend this chart out a bit here so it's easier to see. Where do you think, what's causing these spikes right here? So we seem to have in the red and the blue, at least in the red for sure, a spike every time there's a 12 and every time there's a 5. 12, 5. I'm referring to the month. Here's December, May, December, May. A little bit of a spike here, but more December, May once again. Clearly December's Christmas, right? Everyone's buying gifts for Christmas, and May is just the start of the summer. Time to buy bikes again. Maybe there was some sale going on, closeout sale at the end of August here or something like that. So this is our forecast tool. Down here, even though it didn't put them in, if you'd like these to fill in, if you want to say 2004, 07, 08, and so forth, come back here to your data tab. You can simply add them in. If you select a few of these rows and double click, it should autofill using that same pattern it finds, although Excel doesn't know this is a year-date combination, so when it gets to 13, you're going to have to change that yourself back to, whoops, sorry, closed, I need to do that. 2004, 01, no, not 2004, 2005. Okay, now if you come back here to forecasting report, all those dates show up. It looks nice. Put this in your presentation for management and show them your forecast. Okay, that's all for the forecasting tool.